A boy named Hal is with his dying father at the hospital. He talks about how much he regrets marrying his mother in the few minutes he has left. He says to his son to never give up on love and always look for hotter women. The remarks have caused a huge effect on the boy, who grows up to be a shallow man. Since he is so focused on how women look and how their bodies work, he can't see their true beauty on the inside. Hal works from 9 to 5, but the best part of his day is going to a club every night to hook up with different girls. His friend Mauricio, who is just as shallow as he is his house partner in crime. He is a below-average, self-centered man who just broke up with his girlfriend Lindy because of the way her toes were shaped. I mean, come on, Mauricio, toes. While they were talking about women, Hal told Mauricio that he was dating his hot neighbor Jill. But when he met Jill later that night, she turned him down. Yet he insisted that they go on a second date. However, Jill doesn't like him because he has a big ego. The effect of such a remark leaves him devastated. For Hal, today is a big milestone. He is finally going to get that promotion he's been waiting for. He starts into work, feeling confident and ready to take on the world. Yet life often has unexpected outcomes. As it turns out, someone else swoops in and snags the promotion right out from under Hal's nose. The next day, Tony, a well-known life coach, is in the elevator when Hal arrives. As they talk, the elevator stops suddenly, and it takes the building staff a long time to get them out. Tony and Hal get to know each other in the meantime. From what they said, it was clear that they couldn't be more different. Hal tries to get Tony to talk about how hot his girlfriend is, but Tony is in love with a single woman whom he respects and loves. Tony also finds out about Hal's lack of love life and realizes that it's because he's a shallow person. Then he presents himself as a life coach. How does Hal not listen to simple advice like dating someone for their inner beauty? So Tony puts him under one of his hypnosis spells without him knowing. Hal starts to think that women with average looks are hot and attractive. Outside his office, he meets a woman he thinks is 10 out of 10 in terms of beauty. They both get into a taxi at the same time and decide to share the ride. During the ride, Hal flirts with a girl and compliments her beauty. When they are about to part, he asks for her number, which surprises her. The woman introduces herself as Katrina, and they exchange numbers. Hal's world gets turned upside down, and he used to only have eyes for the hottest women at the club. But after Tony's hypnosis, even the less-than-average ladies are starting to look thin and attractive in Hal's eyes. Mauricio, on the other hand, is not amused. He sees his friend dancing with these girls and wants to snap Hal out of it before it's too late. But Hal's not ready to leave the dance floor yet. He doesn't want to abandon these beautiful ladies. Even Jill, Hal's hot neighbor, notices the sudden change in him. Hal's driving down a busy road when he spots the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. He's so smitten that he follows her into a store to get a closer look. Little does he know, this beautiful girl, Rosie, is not Hal's usual type. In fact, she's a bit on the heavier side. Still, as Hal is still under Tony's hypnosis, he sees Rosie in a whole new light. Rosie's not used to guys coming up to her and giving her compliments, so at first she thinks Hal's just trying to sell her something or pull a prank. But as it turns out, he's genuinely interested in her. They hit it off over lunch and discover more in common than they ever would have imagined. Rosie volunteers at a hospital for children and wants to join the Peace Corps. She has a good heart and likes to help people when she can. This quality of hers impresses Hal even more than he thought it would. Hal finds it strange that Rosie orders half of the things on the menu, since girls usually order a salad on first dates while they talk. While conversing, he discovers that Rosie is their company's president's daughter. Then suddenly, Hal yells at the manager for using cheap chairs when Rosie's chair breaks and she falls embarrassingly to the floor. Hal doesn't know that it broke because of her weight. After the date, when they are about to go their separate ways, Hal asks Rosie for a second date. The proposal almost makes her cry. On their next date, Hal introduces Rosie to a surprised Mauricio, who is confused about how someone like Hal could date a girl like her. Oh, the irony. When she is not around, Mauricio's obviously fake toupee, Mauricio calls her a rhino, and he tells him to get his head on straight. On the other hand, Hal is too in love with Rosie to understand what Mauricio is saying. Afterward, Rosie takes Hal to the hospital to meet the sick kids she cares for. All of them are nice and welcoming to Hal. Meeting happy kids who have been through so much in their lives gives him a different kind of satisfaction he has never felt before. Hal noticed a little girl named Cadence. Because he acts silly, he makes the kids laugh and love him, which makes Rosie like him even more. Rosie says that Hal's lack of fear of the kids will help them feel better about themselves. Hal doesn't understand what she means because who would be afraid of such cute kids? After a great time in the hospital, Rosie's walking to Hal's apartment when she bumps into Jill. The awkwardness level shoots through the roof. Meanwhile, Rosie's trying to navigate this minefield of emotions while still looking cute. Despite of that, Hal's not too worried. He knows how to charm the ladies. He invites Rosie into his apartment, cracking a few jokes to ease the tension. At first, everything's going great. They're laughing, talking, and having a good time. But things take a turn for the worse when Rosie starts getting down on herself, saying she's not pretty. Now, for Hal, it's rude to listen to a woman talk badly about herself. Hal starts showering Rosie with compliments left and right, but it only seems to make things worse. Rosie thinks he's lying and just trying to make her feel better. The night ends with Rosie abruptly leaving and Hal's left scratching his head. The following morning, Rosie apologizes for overreacting to a compliment. They go on several dates, get to know each other better, and fall in love. After that, they have dinner with Rosie's parents. Hal gets nervous when he's in charge of the conversation and makes things awkward by saying Rosie's body is like her mother's, inappropriate in any context. Since Hal is under hypnosis, he incorrectly assumes that Rosie's mother reflects her daughter's attractive appearance and beauty. Despite that, the dinner goes well. When Steve and Hal are alone, Steve accuses Hal of dating Rosie to advance his career. Hal calls Steve a lousy father for making Rosie feel bad about herself. Later, Hal and Rosie are at his house, and things get steamy. Rosie's always been insecure about her body, but when she's with Hal, she feels like the most beautiful girl in the world. They have an amazing evening together and enjoying each other's company. But as it turns out, not everyone's happy about their newfound romance. Jill, Hal's former flame, sees Rosie walking down the hallway the next morning and realizes what's happening. Jill feels a little hurt and jealous, so she decides to make a move on him. Jill offers Hal a bottle of wine and suggests they play video games together that night. But Hal's not having it. He's already found his true love and he's no longer interested in playing games. The next day, Hal's presentation at work blows everyone away. His creativity and personality are fully displayed, and even Steve, his boss's boss, takes notice. Impressed by Hal's talents, Steve offers him a better job. One day, Hal and Rosie go on a double date with his friend Walt and his girlfriend Tanya. During their date, Hal and Rosie run into Ralph. Ralph is Rosie's ex-boyfriend and a Peace Corps volunteer. Rosie and Hal have a short conversation where Ralph notices that she looks very happy. At the same time, Mauricio is still not ready to believe that his friend could love someone who is overweight. Mauricio sees Tony somehow and asks him what he did to his friend. Tony at first tries to avoid the question, but when Mauricio doesn't leave him alone, Tony admits that he hypnotized Hal into seeing women's inner beauty. He also told Mauricio that all he has to do to bring him out of the trance is say, "Shallow Hal wants a gal." While this is happening, Rosie and Hal are having dinner when she tells Hal that her ex-boyfriend Ralph has asked her to join him on a 14-month Peace Corps mission in Kiribati. She will be going for a good cause though. Hal is angry because he thinks that she wants to date Ralph. Suddenly, Rosie breaks another chair. Hal helps her and then talks to the manager about how cheap their services are. When he's not at the table, Hal receives a call from Mauricio. He says the trigger phrase, "Shallow Hal wants a gal." Hal doesn't realize it, but the phrase makes him return to being himself. Hal's world is turned upside down when he realizes that he's fallen in love with a woman he only knows through hypnosis. When he finally meets the real Rosie, he gets confused and doesn't know what to do. Hal starts to panic when his friend Mauricio confirms that he isn't in his right mind. Hal tries to find Tony, desperate to get back to the hypnotic stage. He avoids meeting Rosie in person, but when Jill invites him to dinner, he reluctantly agrees. Little does he know that Rosie and her family are also at the restaurant. When Hal walks past Rosie without recognizing her, she's left heartbroken, but Hal knows he needs to make things right. He calls her and pours out his heart, trying to reassure her that his feelings are real. But unfortunately, it's too late. Rosie breaks up with him. After all, Hal realizes that his love for Rosie is the real deal, and Jill's advances have only confirmed it. A few days go by, and those are the most challenging for Rosie and Hal. Hal finds out from the Reverend that her ex-boyfriend Ralph wants to be with Rosie again. Hal goes to the hospital where Rosie works to look for her, but instead runs into Cadence. When he first came, he saw that the little girl's face was perfect, but now that the hypnosis has worn off, he can see that her face is badly burned. Still, her confidence and desire to live inspires him to the core. In the afternoon, Hal discovers that his friend Mauricio has a vestigial tail. Mauricio always breaks up with women before they even get to the second phase of their relationship. But Hal is a truly good friend, so he helps Mauricio come to terms with his differences. Hal's determined to win back Rosie's heart, so he heads to the Peace Corps office to find her. But instead, he meets Ralph, who just so happens to know where Rosie's going-away party is. Hal, Ralph, Lee Boy, and Mauricio all head over to the party, hoping to make things right with Rosie. When Hal finally sees Rosie, he knows he needs to apologize. Rosie's still angry with him, but Hal can see the love in her eyes. As the crowd cheers them on, they make up, and Hal knows that he's ready to start a new chapter with Rosie by his side. In the last scene, Mauricio also finds a girl who is fascinated with him despite his condition. They walk off into the sunset together, wagging his tail happily. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thank you for watching.